Okay, so now we're going to do something called finding the difference quotient. Last lecture, I'm going to talk briefly about what the difference quotient is for. Those of you who have to go on to calculus will have to compute the difference quotient in your calculus class. But right here, we're just going to concentrate on the mechanics of finding the difference quotient. So you'll notice that this formula right here has two pieces of functional notation in it. And of course, in our last section, we did some functional notation. Notice we have f of a plus h and f of a. So we're going to compute both of those, and then we're going to plug them into this formula. So we're going to find the difference quotient first for f of x equals 2x minus 3. Now, in our formula, notice we have to find f of a plus h and f of a. And I'm going to start with the easier one, the f of a. And I apologize because this always capitalizes things. All right, but f of a, remember how we did our functional notation. We just put parentheses wherever there was an x in our original function. So if I put parentheses right there and I drop the a in, well, that's really just 2a minus 3. Okay, so the answer to f of a is 2a minus 3. Now let's find the first part of this, f of a plus h. F of a plus h. Now again, I'll just put parentheses where my x is in the function. All right, so I've replaced that x with parentheses, and I'll drop a plus h into these parentheses. All right, got a lot more room than I need, so I'll just get rid of some of it. All right, now let's just distribute the 2 through these parentheses. I get 2a plus 2h minus 3. So there's my answer right there to f of a plus h. So now that I've got the answer to both of these things, we're going to place it into this difference quotient. So to do that, let me go ahead and put it in fraction form, just like it is up here. All right, now let's notice, first of all, there's an h in the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that h in the bottom. That's always going to be there. But let's see, the first part is f of a plus h. So here was our answer right here to f of a plus h. Let's take that and put that right here, 2a plus 2h minus 3. Now notice the formula has a minus sign, so I'm going to put a minus sign. And then I want f of a. And this was my answer to f of a. But there's a minus sign sitting in front of f of a. So I have to be careful that I put my f of a in parentheses, because I'm going to distribute that minus sign through it. So this is our setup. We've got our difference quotient set up. Now we've got to work through a few computations to simplify it. So again, I'll get my little fraction thing up here so we can continue working through this. H is in the bottom. All right, now on the top, I'm not going to do anything to 2a plus 2h minus 3 yet, but I am going to distribute this negative through these parentheses. So really a negative 1 multiplying through the parentheses is negative 2a and positive 3. Now you might notice something. I'll use my draw feature here. 2a and negative 2a will cancel each other out. So this and this cancel each other out. Also, negative 3 and positive 3 cancel each other out. In fact, everything that was behind this negative sign that was in these parentheses will cancel out with something else if we've done things correctly. So let's notice now what I've got. Again, I'll get my fraction bar. So on top now, all I've got left is the 2h. And on the bottom, of course, I still have the h. And of course, we can now cancel using our fraction operations an h with an h, and our final answer just ends up being 2. All right, now, for this particular difference quotient, we got a number. And that's because our original function was very simple. It was just what we call a linear function, and we will talk about linear functions a little bit more later. All right, but it was a linear function. So now let's look at a quadratic function. And of course, we've been doing some solving of quadratic equations already in this class, but we will see that doing a difference quotient for a quadratic equation is a little more complex than a linear equation. All right, so let me bring it up a little bit so that we can see our difference quotient formula again. So just like we did up here, the first thing that we are going to compute is the functional notation f of a and f of a plus h. All right, so let's do both of those. Just like I did up above, I'm going to put parentheses where the x's are, and then I'm going to drop these values into the parentheses. So I'm going to put 3 parentheses squared. So I'm replacing my x's with parentheses. Squared's got to stay there though, because that x is squared. And 2 parentheses plus 5. So now, oops, lost my plus somewhere. Plus 5. There we go. Now let's just drop an a into my parentheses. Okay, well really, there's not much cleaning up to do there. That's 3a squared minus 2a plus 5. Notice that just really amounts to changing all of my x's to a's. But my harder one here, let's again replace the x's with parentheses. Minus 2 times parenthesis. And this time I'm dropping the a plus h into these parentheses. So a plus h, a plus h. Now this is a little bit uglier because I really have to multiply some things out here. I have to distribute that negative 2 through the second set of parentheses. And right here, I have to multiply all of this out. So let's remember that a plus h squared really means a plus h times a plus h. While I'm at it though, I'll go ahead and distribute the negative 2 through the parentheses. That's negative 2a, negative 2h. And I still have my 5. Now, we have to multiply all of this out. I'm going to multiply the a plus h's first. I'll FOIL those out, and then I'll distribute the 3 afterwards. So I'm going to say a times a, that's a squared. I'm going to do a times h, that's ah. Now I'll have h times a, that's ah again. And then h times h is h squared. And then I'll just rewrite the rest of it for the moment. Now let's multiply the 3 through those parentheses. So I'll have 3a squared and 3ah and 3ah and 3h squared. And then I'll just rewrite the rest of it. Now, the only thing left I can do to simplify this is I can add the 3 AH's together because they are like terms. So we'll have 3a squared. If I add the two 3 AH's together, 3AH plus 3AH will be 6AH. And I still have 3h squared. Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. All right, now let's take what we have, because we now have the answer to f of a plus h, and we're going to put what we've got into this difference quotient. So I'll go ahead and make my fraction, which I'm going to fill in all of the stuff in the formula into. Okay, and there's always an h on the bottom, so I'll go ahead and stick that there. But first thing, we need the f of a plus h. So that is all of this stuff, ugly though it may be. So 3a squared plus 6ah plus 3h squared minus 2a minus 2h plus 5. All right, so that's my f of a plus h. And then the formula calls for a minus sign. And now I want to put my f of a. But again, f of a needs to go in parentheses because that minus sign is going to go through the whole thing. So here's f of a. We got that answer a while ago. So 3a squared. Oh, and I guess I've got to use this. Minus 2a plus 5. All right, now we've got to simplify this ugly thing. And the first thing we're going to do to it is take that minus sign through the parentheses. All right, so I went ahead and copied this part right here so you wouldn't have to watch me type that. But now let's take the minus sign through. Minus 3a squared. Oh. And then our minus will make the negative 2a a positive 2a. And then our 5 will become a negative 5. Now, remember before that things just started canceling out for us, and that's the case here too. Notice 3a squared, negative 3a squared, negative 2a, positive 2a, positive 5, negative 5. All right, so let's see what we've got. So notice I've just brought down what's left over, 6ah, 3h squared, and minus 2h. Let's notice that every single one of these terms has an h in it, and that should always occur as long as we've done everything correctly. So we'll factor that h out. So let's factor that h to the front. So when we do that, our first term will have just 6a. Our second term will have 3 and a single h because we took one of them away. And then our third term, the h will be gone, so we'll have a minus 2. And now that we have that h factored out, let me go back to my draw feature, I'm allowed to cancel this h right here with the h in the bottom. And what I have left, this right here, is the answer to my difference quotient.